Okay, so you've probably seen the headlines, right? Greenland, this massive icy frontier, is suddenly at the center of a new great game between world powers. And who's the big player everyone's talking about? China. They're often painted as this dragon stretching its claws into the Arctic. But is that what's really going on?
This is the big question that fuels all the speculation. Is China actually taking over Greenland? It seems like a simple question, but believe me, the answer is super complex. It's buried under layers of ice, global ambition, and just plain hard-cold reality. In this explainer, we're going to peel back all those layers and see what's what.
So, why is everybody suddenly obsessed with Greenland? Well, in a word, climate change. As that colossal ice sheet melts, it's revealing what was once buried and completely inaccessible. And what's popping up is basically a geological jackpot, sparking a real 21st century gold rush. And the scale of this opportunity is just staggering. We're talking about huge deposits of rare earth elements. You know, the stuff that's essential for everything from your EV battery to advanced military hardware. Then you add in potential oil and gas reserves, a mind-boggling amount of fresh water, and of course the fisheries, which are the absolute lifeblood of Greenland's economy. It's like a one-stop shop for any global power trying to secure its future.
And this is where China storms onto the scene. Back in 2018, Beijing officially laid out its Arctic strategy, and the centerpiece was this plan to build a polar Silk Road. The vision was huge: create new shipping routes, new infrastructure all across the top of the world. And Greenland? It was seen as a critical piece of that giant puzzle. Honestly, this announcement is what really kicked the whole hype machine into overdrive.
But, you know, a grand vision is one thing. The reality of actually building anything in the high Arctic, that's a completely different story. Before we even talk about who is or isn't building there, we have to understand just how incredibly, punishingly difficult it is to operate in one of the most extreme environments on the entire planet.
This quote from a real mining feasibility study gets right to the heart of the problem. The ground itself isn't stable. The permafrost, that's the permanently frozen ground, it's thawing. Just try to imagine building a multi-billion-dollar project on land that's literally turning to mud under your feet.
So the big takeaway here is, you just can't build things the normal way. Not even close. Every single piece of infrastructure needs a custom, wildly expensive solution. Buildings have to be put up on stilts. Roads, they need a meter-thick base of special gravel. Your water and sewer pipes have to run through heated tunnels just so they don't freeze. You can't even have normal fire hydrants because the lines would freeze solid. Every little thing you take for granted becomes this huge, monumental engineering headache.
And okay, let's say you solve all the engineering problems. How do you get your materials in and your product out? Well, you have a window of maybe 6 to 8 weeks a year when the sea ice clears enough for ships to get through. That's it. For the other 10 months, you're pretty much cut off. Try to imagine running a major industrial operation where your entire supply chain has to work perfectly in that tiny little sliver of time.
This one detail really drives home the sheer isolation. When you're this far north, you literally can't see the geostationary satellites that give us most of our internet and phone service. For a remote mine, the only option is a super limited satellite service with data speeds slower than old dial-up, and personal use heavily restricted. You are truly, and I mean truly, on your own.
Okay, so given all these immense challenges, how is China's Polar Silk Road actually doing in Greenland? Well, when you look past the fancy strategy documents and the splashy headlines, the story isn't one of a takeover at all. It's actually a story of stalled projects and, well, quiet retreats. This quote from the Belfer Center at Harvard, it just sums it up perfectly. Contrary to this popular story of an expanding Chinese footprint, the reality on the ground is the exact opposite. China's presence has been shrinking, not growing. And there's a really clear case study that shows us exactly why. Let's look at the Isua iron ore mine. This thing was supposed to be China's flagship project in Greenland, a big deal. In 2015, the Chinese firm General Nice took control. And then? Crickets. For 6 years, the project just sat there, dormant. Finally, in 2021, Greenland's government decided they'd had enough and just pulled the plug. And look, this wasn't some gentle parting of ways. Greenland's government laid down the law. They ordered the company to hand over all its geological data, pay its outstanding fees, and clean up the entire site. This wasn't just a project failure. It was a crystal clear message that being a big Chinese company doesn't get you a free pass. The first major Chinese attempt to get minerals out of Greenland ended in complete and total failure. And this brings us to the most overlooked part of this whole story. The media loves to frame this as a battle between giants, right? The US versus China, with Greenland as the prize. But that whole way of looking at it misses the most important actor in this entire drama, Greenland itself. Now, this slide is absolutely fascinating because it shows Greenland's strategy in action, plain as day. Look at these two projects. The Kvanfeld Rare Earth Project, which had Chinese backing, was blocked. Why? Because the ore was mixed with radioactive uranium, and the Greenlandic people and their government passed a law to ban its extraction. They had serious health and environmental concerns. But then, look at the Emetso Graphite Project. That one was approved. This proves Greenland isn't anti-mining, it's anti-irresponsible mining. They are making very deliberate choices based on their own rules and their own standards.
And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Here's Greenland's own minister, Naja Nathilsen, saying it loud and clear. Their goal is to attract responsible investment. They are absolutely open for business, but only on their terms and without compromising incredibly high environmental and social standards. They are in the driver's seat, period.
So if this story isn't really about a Chinese takeover, what is it about? It's about a nation of just over 56,000 people, charting its own course, in a world that has suddenly taken a very, very keen interest in them.
This right here is the legal foundation for everything we've been talking about. Since 2009, Greenlanders have been recognized by international law as a people with the right to self-determination. This isn't just some colony or a piece of territory to be bought and sold. Any major decision about their future, their land, and their resources has to be made by them and them alone.
So the ultimate takeaway is this. We've all been looking at Greenland through the wrong lens. The real story isn't about which superpower is going to control it. It's about how Greenland is going to use its newfound resources and strategic importance to finally move away from Danish economic subsidies and build a truly independent future for itself. All the mining projects, the investments, the headlines, they're all just tools to get to that one goal.